Good evening once again, everybody, and welcome to Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land. I am Ethan Greenberg, and alongside of me is my co-host, Madison Delaney. We are presented by Buzzed Sports CLE. You can follow me on Twitter at egreen4325, and you can follow Madison on Twitter at madtravels24. You can follow the show at Going nuCLEar CLE. Please, folks, if you are watching this evening, feel free to send us your comments and join in the conversation. We'd love to hear from you as the evening goes on. So, Madison, how are we hanging in there? It's another Thursday. I'm sure you're getting ready for the Amazon Thursday Night Football. Got a big matchup there, right?
I am a little interested to see if Baker ends up getting some playing time again. I mean, he got thrown in there last week. They got crushed. His old friends, the Bengals, right? Put up some yards in garbage time, of course, a couple touchdowns, I think. They obviously, I think, stayed with PJ Walker this week. So we'll see what happens, I guess, with Carolina playing tonight. Maybe we can finagle our way back into a pick. I don't know if we have enough games left for him to play enough to get that pick up a little bit, but it would be nice.
Yeah, definitely would be nice if we could do that. That would take some of the sting out of it. But boy, the fact that even after Mayfield came on and was able to throw a couple touchdowns, maybe, kind of meaningless in the grand scheme of things against the Bengals last week, that they still wouldn't go to him. I mean, do you think it's an attitude thing, like how he, behaved in Cleveland, or is it just the fact that they have figured out he's not the dude?
I mean, it's probably a little bit of both. I think probably from the outside looking in, I think he maybe has a hard time winning over the locker room. I think initially he seems to be a very rah, rally the guys. But I think that gets pretty thin pretty quickly when he's not backing it up with his play, as he maybe did in the beginning of the season. Okay, well, you're telling me to do this, but you're playing terrible, that kind of thing. So I think it's probably a little bit of that. I think the other interesting thing, I don't know if Darnold got activated for the game today, but I know he got eligible to return from IR or whatever this week. And I didn't see anything else on it, so I'm assuming not active. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with that, if he gets bumped down to third string, if he stays second, maybe if he does get a chance to go back to first string. It depends on what their goals are, right? Do they want a high pick with a good player, and maybe then do you roll the dice? Do you play Baker because you think he gives you the best chance to lose? That kind of thing. We'll see.
Yeah, that's always a tough question there. Always a tough question. Well, I don't know where to start this evening. I got to say, the West Coast trip for the Cavaliers is killing me. It's killing me. Okay, the late night games are, not ideal. Not ideal. Yeah. And they sucked me in after such a good start that I'm staying up late to watch these guys. And they've lost 2 in a row to the Clippers, and then they fell to the Kings last night. Both games, they defended poorly, especially against the 3-point shot. And last night they were led by Donovan Mitchell, but Darius Garland did not play well. According to something that Chris Fedor posted on Twitter, Mitchell said after the game that Garland was under the weather. So my question is this: if Garland was under the weather, why didn't they give him give him a breather, take him out?
Yeah, I think JB definitely shortened the bench on this trip, which is interesting. I think even in the back-to-back, I believe it was the Clippers game where Jetty didn't play, but 3 minutes, something like that. And it feels like in those situations that you should be dipping into your bench a bit more. You're on the road. Let's be honest, they probably went out between the Sunday-Monday game. They're in LA. Of course, they downtown, went out to the bars. So you would like to see them go to the bench more. And I'm sure it's probably a matchup situation. He didn't feel comfortable with the matchups probably. But I mean, I don't really, it's hard to explain this one because they've looked so good. The Clippers game, I feel like, was a bit of an anomaly. I think both teams just shot the ball so well. And even a handful of the threes the Clippers took were contested. Like Paul George was just like taking threes that he had no business taking and knocking them down. I'm like, this is like, okay, I defended you that well. You got to do it every time with this level of defense. And if you make it, you make it, but you're going to work that hard every time is, kind of the mentality. They did that for the most part. They gave up some open looks, of course. I did think it was really interesting that Wade was picking up Paul George for a bit, and LeBron even against the Lakers. I don't love that matchup. What did you think?
Well, I got to say, I'm intrigued by Dean Wade. He goes out there and he plays hard. I feel like he brings a good energy off the bench. He's able to hit shots. He's a scrappy player. I like that. I'm a fan of that because sometimes it's the guys who have to work harder to get into the lineup and get minutes that really impress me more than the guys who just have all that natural talent. You know, my biggest disappointment. Well, first of all, let's go backwards first, and then let's get up back to the Clippers and the Kings here. So this road trip started in Detroit last week, and they were able to win handily without Garland or Mitchell. Both of them had some tweaks in the matchup against Boston, and they win 112-88. Hey, we're off to a good start. There you go. Then they take on LeBron in LA. And even in that game, they had to scrap back. They didn't start off strong. They had to scrap back. And then they came away there with a 114-100 win. They gave up 36 points in the first quarter. They only allowed 36 points to the Lakers the entire second half. That's pretty impressive there. And then on the second night of the back-to-back, let's get to the LA Clippers. They lose 119-117. With under 5 minutes to go, they're leading by 12 points. And kind of funny enough, as I said, this West Coast trip is killing me. I fell asleep with 4.5 minutes to go, and I woke up, and I look at the tablet, and I'm like, huh? They lost? How did this happen? So, I was shocked. I was baffled by that. There was a good performance from Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. Both came through big in that game. And this is a Clippers team. I got to say, they did it. They're still doing it without Kawhi Leonard, who's still recovering from last year's torn ACL. So that's pretty impressive to me that, what the Clippers were able to do. Ty Lue, obviously, able to keep them motivated even when they were down late in the game there, less than 5 minutes ago and down 12 points. And something we'll get to in a little bit was the fact that there were some questionable officiating calls at the end of that game. I mean, you can't let it get that close and come down to that, but still, that's a bit of a bummer. And I thought, okay, great. So they lose that one. All right, big deal, big whoop. And then to come back last night against the Kings, and right out of the gate, the Kings punched the Cavs right in the mouth. They talk about what you do when, if you go to jail, what do they say? Go punch the biggest guy or knock somebody out, something like that. And then nobody will mess with you. And it seemed like the Kings were doing that to us. They saw us as the bully, as the schoolyard bully, and they came and they threw a haymaker at us. And we caught up. We climbed that really, really big hill in the third quarter, gained the lead in the fourth, and just couldn't come up with the plays when we needed them. And I'm just a little bit, are we concerned about the defensive effort?
No, I don't think I'm terribly concerned about the defensive effort. I think they looked a little tired at times, especially obviously the back-to-back. Also, I think probably in the Kings game. But I think the biggest concern, I guess, is that you're giving effort when you can, and obviously playing through it when you're tired, and still finding some energy in you to kind of bring you up to that level. And it's something I think the Clippers did really well towards the end of the game, is they really locked in defensively, and they kind of their level of physicality to do that, which worked. And I mean, it worked for them. We're not typically a super physical team. I don't think we handle physicality very well. And so, when you get tired, you start making mental mistakes. You don't make your rotations. You don't close out all the way. I also think I saw a little bit of it, and it's something my coach used to call false hustle, where you sell out to get a pass that you're probably not going to get, but it looks like you're hustling, but it ultimately takes you out of the play. And I think I saw a little bit of that too down the stretch, where we're kind of lunging for things that probably weren't really going to come up for steals for us, things like that. I'm not terribly concerned, because I think it's mostly just that they're tired. A long road trip. It's the first road trip. So I think they'll get it together and kind of figure it out once they get home and they have a chance to kind of settle back in. I think they'll probably work through those issues, but I do think it mostly came down to fatigue.
Right. And I, some of it physical, some of it mental as well.
Yeah.
The Cavs had 18 turnovers. Kings only had 9 turnovers. And the crazy thing is the Cavs out-rebounded Sacramento 42-24. You win on the boards by 18. I mean, it took a lot of crazy, outstanding shooting from Sacramento from behind the three-point arc. They had a lot of open looks, but there were guys just burying them from deep, and it was deflating. It was definitely deflating to go through that. One more road game. Cavs play at Golden State tomorrow. Golden State only 4-7, but all 4 of their victories have been at home. And their last game was a win over Sacramento that broke a 5-game losing streak. And I don't know if you looked at the stats, but Steph Curry is leading the team in points, rebounds, and assists. 32.6 points, 7.1 rebounds, and 6.9 assists. He's one of the smallest guys on the court, and he's leading them in rebounds. What does that say? Hustle is what I would calculate that to.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched a ton of Golden State, so I don't know if I can say outright, but I mean, anytime that happens, he's always kind of gone for the ball, I feel like. But I mean, to lead the team in rebounds, I think says maybe more about where their post play is at this point than it does Steph Curry. You would think you would have some other people in there securing those boards, but if it's Steph Curry, then I guess as long as you get the board, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I would say probably more says more about their post players than it does about Curry. But I'm sure he's out there hustling as always.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a really interesting dynamic in Golden State this year. You had the offseason scuffle between Draymond Green and Jordan Poole.
We'll call it that, yeah.
I mean, hey, nobody's getting bowls of soup thrown at them, like in
yeah.
I mean, you got to get a little more creative there, Draymond, to throw a punch at the guy. Could you at least throw a bowl of soup at him? Maybe throw the pizza wheel. That's my thinking. We don't need that. So we've got a tough one at Golden State tomorrow, the last of the West Coast trip for this go round. Then finally, they're going to come home. The Cavs will on Sunday take on the T-Wolves. But then a big matchup next Wednesday at Milwaukee. Milwaukee last night, I don't know if you caught that at all, but they escaped Oklahoma City with a win. I believe it was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander hits a 3 with 6/10 on the clock. And then they committed a cardinal sin and fouled Lopez on the inbounds. Brooke Lopez, that is. It's 1 out of 2 at the foul line, and ultimately Milwaukee holds on in double overtime. But it was crazy. I'm like, how's that happen? That's just terrible.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, right?
I suppose so. Well, hopefully the Cavs can get up for the games. Minnesota coming home. Hopefully they'll have some more energy. I think if I saw correctly, they're going to be putting out the new city edition jerseys and the city edition court. Did you catch that today?
I did catch them. I feel like I want to withhold judgment until I see them on the court because I also wasn't sure about the new uniforms, but I actually like them a lot when they're wearing them in the games. Now they did look a little bit like practice jerseys. The one logo is placed a little strangely, I think, but other than that, they're not too bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not so sure about that. The color scheme. I know. Why am I being a fashion critic? I don't know. That's really the least of our worries here. I just want, as long as they win, I really don't care. Dress them up in pink polka dots. Just win. Just that's kind of the way I feel about that. But the Minnesota game, hey, that they need to come home and take care of business, and then they'll have, if they can do that, then that sets up a big matchup. Get back on their winning ways to go into Milwaukee and take on Giannis. And Milwaukee doing it all without Middleton, too. So Milwaukee's a beast.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely true. I think from my perspective, one of the things that I'm more interested in almost than the Milwaukee game is not overlooking Minnesota. It could maybe be said that we overlook Sacramento looking ahead to, playing the Warriors on Friday. Not necessarily taking everyone so seriously. Just because they have gotten off to that good start and you're just kind of relying and falling back on the fact that you've played well so far, you can probably get over the hump. So making sure that they're looking, not too far ahead and they're focused on the game in front of them. But yeah, I mean, the Milwaukee game for fans, it's one to circle on the map for sure. It'll be interesting. Obviously they had a loss, so they're no longer undefeated, but it'll be really interesting to me to see how we defend Giannis, just because no one can really defend him, one-on-one. Will we throw double teams at him? Who will guard him? Will it be Mobley? He's got the length and the size that you need. And he's also agile enough. So, I'm thinking probably, but you never know. We could mix it up a bit. But I'm interested in that and seeing how that goes.
Right. One of the things that I noticed last night, and Austin Carr was talking about, it looked like Mobley's foot speed wasn't quite there, and that could be troublesome against Giannis. And so if you don't use Mobley, who has the size and the speed to match up with him? Giannis is just a phenomenal player, one of the top in the NBA. And so it's going to be difficult. I think you really have to limit, if it's not so much, would you agree? It's not so much limiting him as it is keeping the other pieces in check.
Yeah. You have kind of two ways to approach a team that's star-centered. It's either shut down the star and make everybody else beat you, or you say, okay, star, beat us by yourself. It'll be interesting to see kind of what they do. Obviously in the regular season, it's not quite the same as playoffs, which I think actually the Clippers kind of played us more playoff-like by sending double teams at so I don't know if we'll handle it that way or if we won't tip our hand too much in terms of how we really intend to play them. If we're lucky enough to play them in the playoffs, I guess we'll say, you want to kind of sometimes play your cards close to the vest. But yeah, I think it's going to be a team effort no matter what. He's going to beat people off the dribble. Do we have that help rotating over? And then are we helping the helper and making that extra rotation where we need to? I did see a thing about JB, I think maybe it was one of the Cavs. I forget what they called the Browns equivalent. But I was watching that, and the way he talked about his rotations was really interesting to me because it's more guard to guard and big to big than the opposite. Obviously you'll have times, I guess, where if both bigs go, then you're going to have to help down on the big. But that was pretty interesting to me because I haven't really heard it taught like that. So it was an interesting thing, I think, that they showed. I was really enjoying the Cavs thing. If you haven't watched it, I would highly recommend. It's nice to get kind of some background info and some insight that you don't normally get in a regular broadcast.
Absolutely. Something to certainly check out here. But since we were referencing it, talking about the matchup, just looking at Milwaukee again, not wanting to skip ahead, but Giannis averaging 31.8 points a game and 12.2 boards to lead the Bucks, and Drew Holiday coming up big with 7.9 assists per game. That's pretty good. So we shall see what they get. I think we're going to have to. I really think you got to shut down some of the other guys. You can't let Grayson Allen beat you from 3-point land. You got to frustrate him and make him do one of his childish juke moves and try and trip somebody or something along those lines to really hold them down. And of course, you got to face the Timberwolves. You got Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards, and so there, and Gobert as well. I can't forget Gobert. That was a big acquisition. I mean, I love what the Cavs have done so far. I'd love to, as we talked, I'd love to see a little more defensive fire right out of the gate because they certainly can score with the best of them. But I want to see them lock it in a little bit. So we got that going on for our Cavaliers. Coming off the 2 games, trying to break a 2-game skid tomorrow. We'll see how they show up in Golden State. And again, as I mentioned, to open, the West Coast trip is killing me. A lot of lack of sleep and having to be highly caffeinated during the day. It's not ideal. Not ideal. Moving forward, taking a look here at some Guardians news, more off-season awards and that sort of thing. Chris Antonetti, we talked about it. A publication named him an Executive of the Year a couple weeks back, and now he was officially named Major League Baseball's 2022 Executive of the Year. So that's a good thing. Jose Ramirez, he did undergo the right thumb surgery yesterday. That was to repair the ulnar collateral ligament. According to the reports, he is going to be able to resume baseball activity in approximately 6 to 8 weeks. So we will, just have to wait and see how that goes. I mean, hopefully it's nothing major. The way he played through the injury really says a lot about him. He didn't let it hamper him, even though in all likelihood it did have some impact on him. And as we look at our present team, going backwards, looking at a former Cleveland Indian, Albert Bell, making the ballot for the Contemporary Era Hall of Fame. The committee is going to convene on December 4th at the winter meetings. Voting results are going to be announced live on the MLB Network, 8 o'clock that night. So just less than a month away from that. His career numbers, and as I read it and I recall it, injuries did play a part in his numbers maybe not being as spectacular as some of the others. But boy, Bell was he was key. He was clutch. That guy could rake, and mash. 381 career homers, 1,239 runs batted in. And in 95, he was the first player in American League National League history to have 50-plus home runs, 50-plus doubles in a season. He leaves Cleveland, signs a free agent contract with the White Sox, and he became the first Major League Baseball player to earn at least $10 million in a season. That's pretty impressive back at the time. That 95 season was only 144 games. So he hit 50 homers in 144 games in a 144 game season. I mean, it was quite impressive what he and the other guys on that team were able to do. And some of the other players who are part of the class, you've got guys like Kurt Schilling. I believe Roger Clemens is amongst those. It'll be interesting to see who gets voted. You got to get 75% of the ballots. What say you?
Major League Baseball is so weird about their Hall of Fame. I feel like they make it really, really difficult, I think, to get in, and then they really freeze people out when they don't want people in. I guess we'll see. I don't remember a ton from the 95 team. I do remember being super with the team at that time because they had like the baseball collector's items that they would give out. I can't remember what in Northeast Ohio gave them out or who, or if they had to be bought, but I remember having them and like wanting all of them for my little stand. So, I mean, hopefully he gets in and there's, not too many issues with it. You never know with Major League Baseball.
No, you certainly don't know. I mean, he had his issues. The cork bat incident, that's no good. And then what did they do? They broke into the umpire's room and stole the bat in Chicago. So I mean, just craziness. What was going on there back in the mid '90s? I mean, it was a different time or something like that. I mean, we're really aging ourselves. The fact that we're now talking about '95 and it seems so long ago when all of that excitement was going on in Cleveland for the Indians at that time. We talked about it before. I mean, just a lineup that featured so many great players, and the Indians again trying to rebuild that strategy, going with that youth movement, and now I think we've got obviously our own things going on in Cleveland right now with Ramirez and such. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the free agent market and whether or not the Guardians are aggressive to jump on that train and try and make a big move. It's up for debate, and by the time we hit spring training, I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about there. Lots to talk about there. So, folks, once again, if you are listening at home, be sure to send us your comments. We are presented by Buzzed Sports CLE. Follow me on Twitter, egreen4325, and Madison at MadTravels24. You can follow the show at Going Nuclear CLE. Subscribe on YouTube, share it with your friends. Again, send us your comments like Factory of Sadness for Life. He's always got something good to say when we start getting into the Browns. Speaking of which, that brings us to our beloved Browns. Browns, hey, Sunday wasn't ruined. Sunday wasn't ruined for us this week. I mean, I don't know about you, but the bye week might be the best week, even though people make the meme that the Browns lose to the bye week. But I don't know. First of all, do you find when the Browns have a bye week that do you find that you have an interest in the games, or do you kind of give yourself a break?
Yeah, I definitely watch the games. Unfortunately, I do not have NFL tickets, so I'm kind of stuck with whatever is on local here, which unfortunately was the Panthers and the Bengals last week, which was not much of a game. I watched some of the Bills game. I wouldn't say I'm glued to my TV like I am. Like I'll go out and walk the dog and not be super concerned about getting back right when halftime ends, that kind of thing. But I mean, it is kind of fun to check in on some of the other teams from time to time, and at least watch passively.
Yeah, I thank you, Denny, for your comment. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. Best Sunday of the season, and in fact, a big whoop whoop. And that's good stuff there. No, on one hand, I'm happy because I'm like, all right, great. No pressure, no stress. Just watch the games. On the other hand, I find that I'm not that interested in the games. And sometimes we get the crappiest matchups. I mean, I know you're down in Carolina, where, me being up here in Richmond, Virginia area. And so it's always fun to see what garbage we get to watch for our local games, and it was pretty craptacular. It was kind of craptacular on Sunday. Mostly, I was watching and the scores as they were coming up, and seeing what the other teams in the division were doing, being Cincinnati and Baltimore, who are ahead of us, and then also taking a look at the teams that are ahead of the Browns in the standings in a race for a possible wild card. And I started looking at it and thinking about, okay, what are our chances of making it to the playoffs? And I asked Jim Irsay about it, or Jim Mora about it, and this is what he had to say.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
So Jim Mora, he's basically calling us crazy for talking about playoffs here. So no, looking at it right now, the Browns are behind in the wild card chase to the Jets, the Patriots, the Chargers. All three of those teams won over the weekend and have the tiebreaker already over the Browns in head-to-head. So that's going to make it really tough to be able to catch them and climb over them. And we've got quite frankly, we've got a very tough schedule coming up. And Factory of Sadness checking in. Be lucky to win 2 more. I mean, I'm a little more optimistic than that, but but I feel you. I feel you. It's going to be a tough go. We'll see how they come out after the bye week. See how they come out on Sunday in Miami. But if we're going to have a chance to get to the postseason, I think that the route they're going to have to take is the division. Right now, we are behind both Cincinnati and Baltimore. However, we play Baltimore one more time so we could tie up the season head-to-head matchup. And we've got a win over Cincinnati already. So there's a chance there to pick up some ground on them. It's really going to be an uphill battle, though, honestly. But now I'm going to go back on the other side. You tell me your thoughts here. Things happen and are strange on a week-to-week basis. And it might going to happen. I know you think it ain't going to happen, but it might going to happen. Josh Allen, the end of the Buffalo game, injures his right elbow. He may not play this week. Now that our game isn't this week, it's the following week, so I don't know how much good that does us. But if he's got a nerve injury in his throwing elbow, that could be a problem. And then if you say, okay, well, who's his backup? Oh, we know him, Case Keenum. They have no running game to speak of, and Keenum is mostly, as we know, a game manager. So you got that. And then you got Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay is struggling. Although Tom Brady is Tom Brady, they come back and win that game on Sunday in the closing moments. It was just unreal. But of course, the Rams are not the Super Bowl champ Rams. They are not playing that well. So all that has been said, and I've spewed and gone on this long rant about what we've got coming up. Coming out of the bye week, are you feeling better or worse about the Browns season at this point now?
I guess in general, I'm feeling better, if only because last year maybe not quite as much, but usually fresh off the bye, and I can't remember exactly, but I don't think Kevin's lost off a bye. I don't know if you have that in front of you. But typically after we've done that self-scout, we come out pretty strong in that first game. And to be honest, depending on what happens with Josh Allen, this could be the toughest of those 3 games. And if you can come out and somehow sneak out a win, then you're feeling pretty good going into Buffalo. And maybe you can make some noise. I think you probably have to win 2 out of 3, right? I think before Watson comes back, to really give yourself a chance. If you win all 3, that's icing on the cake. If you only win 1, you're probably making it really, really tough on yourself. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they look like, to see if we made any adjustments over the bye week. What kind of line are together? Are we going to continue to roll with kind of moving the DNs along the line, sometimes playing on the interior? We'll see how it goes. They've got a tall task on the defensive side. I'm not so worried about the offense. I think they've pretty much been humming all season long, minus the Patriots game. So the defense does have a lot on their plate this week, though.
Yeah, absolutely. They are going to have to slow down the likes of Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. It's not so much a ground game that I'm worried about. I mean, their leading rusher is Mostert, Raheem Mostert, averaging 4.3 yards a carry, 53 yards a game. Yeah, I'm not overly concerned about that. But Tua's in 6 games, because he missed 3 due to that concussion, the concussion issue. And we'll get back to that. But passing percentage, 69.9% completion percentage, 1,980 yards, 15 touchdowns, just 3 picks. That's pretty impressive. And the recipients here, Tyreek Hill, 76 catches already, 1,104 yards, only 3 touchdowns, but he's averaging 122.7 yards a game. And then Jalen Waddle, ho-hum, 47 receptions for 812 yards and 6 touchdowns. So, I mean, this is going to be a really, really difficult task to shut them down. The good news is that it appears that everything is on track, that Denzel Ward is going to be out of concussion protocol and is going to be able to play. So that's going to be important for the defensive backfield. I was taking a look at the injury report. Bitonio didn't practice. I mean, we had a couple of guys not practicing yesterday due to not injury-related rest. But Bitonio practiced, Clowney a full participant. Conklin did not practice. He was getting rest for his foot. He was limited yesterday, but didn't practice today. Then you've got Michael Dunn on the offensive line. He was limited. Also, Amari Cooper was full go. Emerson and Garrett, they didn't practice yesterday, but they were full go. Other notables, Njoku did not practice. He's still getting over that ankle injury, and we are going to have to wait and see about that. It's going to be interesting what that defensive backfield is like with Denzel Ward coming back. And again, JOK did not practice either. It's going to be tough. And barbecue Browns. Well, our barbecue Browns good because I don't know. It sounds tasty to me. Sounds tasty. Smoking some meat before a football game. I'm a big proponent of it. And let's see. We got comments on Ward. Not gonna help. Not gonna happen. Well, I don't know. We haven't faced Tua yet. And last year, and again, we go back to that Cincinnati thing and wondering about what's the deal with the Browns and Joe Burrow. But Ward did a good job on Jamar Chase when faced with that. So I'm not going to count him out at this point for getting tore up. I think a lot of it is going to be about putting pressure on Tua from the defensive line and calling some creative blitzes, quite honestly. I think Tua, if he gets knocked around, although they cleared him in the concussion protocol or whatever it is that, in the game against Buffalo and let him continue playing, you've gotten your brain jarred around like that enough. It may not take much to cause more harm. I mean, I don't wish harm on anybody, but I'm just saying, he might be a little fragile. He might be a little fragile.
Yeah. I mean, I think you probably, given how good their receivers are, you probably want to get pressure with 4 whenever you can. If you're not getting pressure with 4, you probably have to roll the dice and blitz a bit. And they have been more creative with their blitzes, I think, lately, the last few games before the bye. So, I guess we'll see kind of what the game plan is, whether you want to take those chances and kind of leave guys on islands with those two receivers. Not something I particularly want to do, but I understand, it may demand it. Sometimes you can catch a team off guard because they're like, well, I mean, no one's going to blitz us and try to go one-on-one with our receivers. And, maybe you do catch them from time to time. So yeah, we'll see if they can get pressure with 4. I think that'll probably be the key. If they can't, and we do have to blitz, I think it might be a long day.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. It's really going to be interesting to see what the game plan is. I think that you've got to do more of the same offensively as what you did in the game against Cincinnati. You need to really try and run the ball as best as possible and gain control there, make the passing opportunities for Brissett manageable. I think saw a quote, and they were talking to Van Pelt, and he was talking about how if they can get it to 3rd and 6 or less, I mean, that puts a very, very favorable situation. So I think that they are more than capable of doing that with the offensive line and the running backs they have. Opponents, just the stat here against Miami averages 117.4 rushing yards per game. Against the Dolphins, I think, again, you just got to mix it up. You need to stick to this formula that has won you games this season thus far. And, Jacoby Brissett, he's hanging in there. He really is hanging in there. And credit where credit is due. I know he's not like the most glamorous quarterback, but I guess compared to what we've had the past couple of years, I'm not going to complain. And when we put that out there, he's average his completion percentage 63.9%, 1,800 plus yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Not the best ratio, but again, he wasn't brought here to go out and just blow the roof off the place. He was brought here to be a strong leader and to keep you above, afloat until Watson can come back against the Texans. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that maybe after this week, Watson will be able to practice. Am I remembering that?
I feel like that's probably right. It'll be interesting to see how they end up splitting reps to try to both get Watson ready while also keeping Brissett ready to play in the games that he'll have to. I'm sure they'll manage it fine. I'm sure they have a plan. But it's probably, it could be tough to do both and try to kind of, I guess, split that gap where you're doing just enough with Watson that it's not too much that it's taken away from Brissett and getting ready for Sundays. But yeah, it'll be probably a lift, I would say, to get him in. He seems like he's got the locker room behind him, I guess. So I think they'll probably be excited to have him, out on the field when they can get him there, and it'll probably give him a little boost going in. Now it's a little more real. If we can just get this game, we can just get that game, then maybe we're in a little better shape.
Yeah. So Factory of Sadness questions a plan. I guess the Factory of Sadness is just saying that normally we're on the no plan, or I don't know.
Kevin fan, I think, not a Kevin fan. But yeah, I think they have a plan.
Yeah, we're gonna see what they come up with. I think that the good news is this: Watson's been able to be in meetings, be around the guys, so he should know what's going on. I don't think he's been pulling a Kyler Murray. I don't think he's been spending lots of time playing the video games and not studying his playbook. And I think that if you can make it once you make it to the Houston game, I think in the Houston game, you've got a chance to ease Watson back into things. He'll have a full week of practice going into that. But where he can take, I believe he can take the number one, the first team reps, and you ease him back in against the Texans, because the Texans, for better or worse, they're not too good this year. They're not too good. So we'll see how it goes, and see if the Browns are even still breathing at that point. But it's going to take a big effort here, especially these next 3 weeks, the last 3 weeks without Watson, for the Browns to keep their playoff hopes alive. Because I don't want to have this conversation again with Jim Mora.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
Right. Yeah, I heard you the first time, Jim. Okay, I get it. I'll have to call Allen Iverson, and we'll talk about practice too while we're at it. So anyway, all of the fun stuff out of the way here. All the serious stuff out of the way. Last week we had a fun time talking about things that I would categorize as either yay or oy vey. We talked about nacho fries. We talked about the McRib sandwich. And I got a few more for you that I'd like to talk about this week, and see what your thoughts are here. All right. You watch ESPN these days, and you see a lot of guys, they're not just sitting behind the desk anymore. They're doing stand-up. And they're wearing these beautiful suits that I'm sure are expensive, and they're wearing sneakers. All right? Sneakers with a suit on. Yay or oy vey?
I'm going to go oy vey, with a caveat that it's a yay when Coaches versus Cancer happens and they wear like the shoes. I like that. I'm cool with that. In general, I think people try to pull off the sneakers with the suit that have no business trying to pull off the sneakers with the suit. Like, there's a handful of guys that can do it, I think. Most of them cannot, but they give it a try, for better or for worse. Say you.
Well, I'm also going on the oy vey train here. Like, I get it. You might be an athlete, or you're talking about sports, and so you're like, I'm casual. I can wear whatever. And I know that, as far as I know, actually, there's people who do newscasting who sit behind the desk, don't do any stand-up spots, and they're wearing a nice suit or a nice jacket and tie and all that get up, wearing shorts under there. So I'm going to go oy vey on that one. All right.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. Next, I was watching some soccer on Saturday, Sunday, and also just to, hey, look, we got Dan Dino says in oy vey, if you're trying to be comfortable, skip the suit too, jabroni. I'm down with that. I'm down with that. All right. So watch soccer, the Premier League, and I see Arsenal, and I see their jerseys. They've got collars on them. I'll go first here and then get your opinion. I'm going oy vey all the way. You're wearing an athletic jersey. Why do you need a collar on it? Are you trying to impress somebody? Now you're dressing up to play, and then you got the guys who are doing the commentating dressing down. I'm not sure I get it. I'm going oy vey.
Yeah, Macon agrees. I think oy vey. I feel like I've played with soccer jerseys with collars on them. I don't love collars, so I would prefer not to have them. We do have the World Cup coming up, so it's a very timely, and we're not too far off from that. We'll see how that goes for the good old US of A. Hopefully not too bad. But yeah, I do get the thing with Arsenal. Like, I mean, you have your like standards that are collared, and they're probably never going to change. But yeah, I would say no for me.
Yeah, that I think it's also like, can you imagine sweating that collar up around your neck? That's just awful. That's awful. And Factory of Sadness, he joins us with the oy vey for sure. My next topic of yay or oy vey, we just had this past weekend, daylight savings time. Now, I appreciate the extra hour that we get in the fall. I'm not so keen on it being dark so early. Just overall, cut the crap with the time saving. I don't know why we can't get rid of this. I'm going Oy vey.
Yeah, I probably have to agree with you, but I do also really like that when you're back and you get like a surprise hour. I did see a funny joke based on your phones, like, it's cool, we know what time it is, no big deal, but your oven is blasting at you like, what has happened? There's like a shift in the space-time continuum. It's a bit of a headache, even though like every device you have pretty much at this point will update it for you, but you don't want to end up as like late or early to something because you just didn't happen to know, or you think you're late or early because you look at that oven clock and it hasn't changed. It happens.
Yeah, that's brutal. That's brutal. Okay, I got two more quick yays or oy veys here. First one, and I don't know. I think this well, this is both men and women alike. Jeans with holes and rips in them. I'll let you go first. Yay or oy vey?
I feel obligated to say yay because this was like the generation I grew up in where it was like, go spend $150 on a pair of jeans that has holes ripped, and like people bought regular jeans and shredded holes with like a cheese grater, like doing the most to try to get the holes. So I will say yay because it reminds me of like the olden days, I guess, when I was a teenager. Even though I don't wear jeans with holes in them now. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going oy vey on this. I'm sorry. I'm old. I'm crotchety. But I've seen people spend a lot of money on apparel that's already got the holes in it. The idea is to not have holes to start, and you want to avoid making the holes as you go along. I know, when you have kids, they're crawling around on the floor. Boom, you get a hole in the knee. Hey, man, I'll patch that up. I'll patch it up. My grandfather, he was kind of frugal, and he would work through it. He would wear slippers, and instead of going to the store and just buying a pair of replacement slippers, I mean, these were not expensive. These were house slippers. He would take a Raisin Bran box and cut out a piece of the cardboard and use it to fill the hole in the slipper. So, I mean, yeah, I'm going oy vey on the jeans with the holes and rips in them. Last thing on the yay or oy vey train for this evening. In-app purchases. In-app purchases. I'm calling oy vey on that. You get these things, they come up, and it's like, either charge me for the app or don't charge me for the app. I don't want this nonsense where you're saying, well, you can't do this if you don't do this, blah, 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 blah. No, just let me pay for it or not pay for it. Don't tease me like that.
That's fair. This is good feedback because I'm actually in the process of trying to launch an app and I'm trying to figure out the monetization of it all. I don't typically do in-app purchases. I have done a lot of research on it because of the app. And it's kind of interesting the differences actually between Android and Apple owners and who's willing to pay for things like that versus not. But since I don't, I'll go with oy vey.
All right, another fantastic segment of yay or oy vey. Oh, wait a second. I almost forgot this one here. This one, as I wanted to mention or come back to, the NBA's last 2-minute officiating report. Like, I don't know where you stand on it. I'll let you go, and then I'll give you my thoughts on that. Yay or oy vey to the last 2 minutes report?
It's a tough one because it's like, what purpose does it serve at that point? I will say yay only because I like to be vindicated that I was in fact correct, that like a call was wrong or, not called and should have been. So for that reason, for I guess my own self-awareness, I like to know. But it does make you mad, of course, when you did get it right and they got it wrong and it cost you the game. But I also think if you're going to do it for the last 2 minutes, where's like the rest of the game? Like, just give me everything you got wrong at that point. But I will say yay, because I do like to know for my own sake.
Yeah, I hear you, and I'm on the fence about it. On the yay, I agree with you completely about the yay. But to give you the counterpoint. The oy vey is now I'm just pissed off. Now I'm just angry because you screwed up the calls and we lost the game, and that just makes me mad. And these people need to be held accountable. It's the same way with the NFL officials. I'd love to see a little more transparency there. But, I bring up that last 2-minute officiating report from the game against the Clippers for the Cavs. There were some questionable calls. And so, yeah, I just didn't know where we were on that, of whether we were happy or sad to know when the refs screw up and mess things up here. Yeah. So with all that being said, I think it's that time of the show for us to go nuCLEar. And with that, Madison, what are you going nuCLEar about this week?
It's been like, what are we, a week into the Elon Musk era on Twitter, and we're already in shambles. I feel like this Twitter blue thing is too much. I've already seen way too many fake tweets. I mean, at least we got through, I guess, NFL free agency before that really started. I feel like I would be tricked by many of fake verified accounts or whatever. I mean, they're verified sort of, but not really, not with like who the actual person is. It's just, oh yeah, I paid $8 a month, so I have this blue check mark and I can just make the rest of you look dumb. There's just, Twitter is kind of a own right without all of that. I don't really think we need all the extra, like, oh, I have this blue check and now I can tweet like Adam Schefter and you'll believe me, or, like whatever. I don't see the point. Like, the point of being verified used to be, I guess, that you're the person that you say you are behind the blue check mark. And even if that were to be like a regular average person saying like, oh yeah, this is me, I've verified, I've got, however they do verifications for social media, I don't even know anymore. But, having that backing and then like, okay, yeah, you are who you say you are, cool. You're not a bot, basically. You're not like a parody, like, stuff like that. I cannot. I'm already over Twitter. I'm not paying any amount of money to get a blue check mark. No, thank you. I don't know about you. Doesn't mean that much to me. I will continue to tweet the Browns and Cavs stuff like I do, and the Guardian stuff during baseball season. And, no blue check mark needed for me. I just go away, Twitter blue. Like, we're not going to make money off of it. It's just a lost cause, I think, for Elon, but we'll see.
Fair enough. I'm right there with you. I got to be honest, as we are sitting here and letting you know that, you can tweet us during the show. Please feel free to follow us at Going nuCLEar CLE on Twitter, or at egreen4325 or at madtravels24 on Twitter, as I sit there and hawk that. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this whole new regime that they got going on, and just more specifically for the purposes of selling this service or whatever, to have a blue check mark, because now it's meaningless. It's meaningless to me. It's a participation trophy now. It's just a participation trophy. So yeah, I hear you on that one. I'm not putting up my $8 a month for that. $96. Nope. I can find another way to save $96 or spend it, do something there with that. So a couple of things here. Denny says Twitter is back, baby. All right, fair enough. That's nice. I'm going to take that as a joke. That must be a joke. I don't know. No. All right, so I got a couple topics that really make me go nuCLEar. My first topic is this: what in the heck are people thinking who are driving around in crappy cars, putting modified exhaust systems on them? They draw attention to your junky vehicle. You spend more money on the exhaust system than the whole car is worth. Just to be loud, you sound like your car is farting down the street. I can't stand it. You know, you go flying by me. I should have downloaded that sound of it. It's awful. It's just awful. I don't understand the thing with that. And I don't know if you have seen this video. The car's out. I think it was out west. They whistle. It is horrendous. It is absolutely horrendous. What people do with their with their vehicles that suck. Their vehicles suck, and they put loud exhausts on them. Why do you want to do that? Don't draw attention to yourself. Do not draw attention to yourself. Apparently, I don't know. I got nothing on that. My second thing is, minor, and it's relative to everything that's going on with Kyrie Irving. Why is it that professional athletes, that actors, that public figures think that they are savvy enough to go and put out messages? Where are the public relations managers to handle this mess that these people are getting themselves into? I don't understand it. I think it was Herm Edwards. Don't hit send. Don't hit send, because you are just opening up a can of worms. It's no good. It's crazy. I'm like, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a stance on things. I'm not saying shut up and dribble. I'm just saying that you're getting yourselves into trouble posting messages that are offensive to large swaths of people, that are hurting your career and hurting your ability to make money if you care about that. Some people don't, like apparently Kyrie. I am also glad he is no longer a Cleveland Cavalier for all of his. We don't need that. Wow, what a mess. What a mess. And last but not least, this one is recent. It just came to me. Well, I don't know if parents, people with kids, they have school activities, and I don't know what it is. My tax dollars pay for the public education. Why are these people constantly coming to me, asking me to spend my money? They're wanting me to do fundraisers and be part of the PTA. And then my kid's got a concert coming up, and they're telling me, oh, can he get dress shoes? He's in the band, sitting down, not in the front row, not on the end. No one can see his feet. No one can see his feet. Why are you trying to spend my hard-earned money for me? I don't need that. We ain't got time for that. This is ridiculous. And I wish they would stop sending the kids home with all these things to buy this and buy that. And then they get them all like jazzed up about stuff. We don't got time for that. We got enough going on. And please stop spending my money for me. I spend enough already on property taxes. And if you want to come up with something better, I suggest you do so, because this is not going to work for me. No good. We're not going to have that. So those are the things that I am going nuclear about. And folks, want to thank you for tuning in again tonight. This was episode 4 of Going nuCLEar, and we are presented by Buzz Sports CLE. Follow me on Twitter, which we bashed a moment ago. I'm at egreen4325, and Madison is at madtravels24. The show is on Twitter at Going nuCLEar CLE. Please be sure to subscribe on YouTube, share the show, share the link with your friends, send us your comments. Thank you very much, Factory of Sadness for Life and Denny Clutter, for joining in. And also want to thank Craig Fountain, who has helped get this show off the ground and on the air. Madison, another great show. We've got lots of sports to talk about next week. So be sure to tune in next week, because I think, next week we'll be on. Following week, I'm not going to do a Thanksgiving show. I don't think you want to do stuff in my face with turkey. Don't think that's going to work. But We will be on again next week and bring you all of the full-blown coverage of the land on Going nuCLEar. Once again, for Madison Delaney, I am Ethan Greenberg, and you have been watching Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land. Good night.